Mic check, I'm good.
Hey, Ron.
Lamborghini's invited us to go to Italy to tour from Milan to Bologna to celebrate their 50th anniversary on what they're calling the Grande Giro, which is the tour of about 350 owners driving their Lamborghinis around Italy. Before the rally even started, we sat through an excruciating press conference in which Stefan Winkelmann and somebody else talked about the 50-year relationship of Pirelli and Lamborghini and that we would be driving some cars. We all knew that, so we just wanted to get on the road. The tour started in Milan, but obviously the big draw of it was being able to drive your own car. So there were people coming from, I think they said there were 48 different countries represented there or something. So whether they were coming from the US or Tokyo or England or Paris, there were a lot of Italian cars there, but if you weren't obviously on the right continent, you had to ship their car. There were a lot of Aventadors, a lot of Gallardos, 350 GTs, an Islero, a couple of Espadas, and even the Lamborghini Cala, which was a concept they made 3 of in I think 1995, and one of those cars was there doing the entire rally with us. My favorite Lamborghini, as a lot of people would say on the tour, is probably the Miura. It was the benchmark for what a modern supercar looks like, the proportions, the mid-engine layout, the low-slung, everything. The Aventador is probably my contemporary favorite because it's just so audacious and loud and exciting. The Countach is still a very, very special car to Lamborghini. You'd have to like remap your brain in the early 70s to see a car like that. It's still radical. If you park it in front of an elementary school, kids' minds are blown. I thought hanging out with people that can buy malls, they would be dressed as well as possible for the entire trip. So I went to Kohl's and got the nicest suit I could find for the rack. But it turns out when you can buy them all, you don't really want anything from it, and you wear tennis shoes and t-shirts everywhere. So I was the only one wearing a suit. For the tour, I was driving in a Lamborghini Gallardo 554. It's obviously really, really fast. It was great, you know, the steering, it had a nice weight to it, and it was a blast. It was very manageable and very, very fast and brutal when you want it to be. Okay, the first stop was a small enough town that they let all the kids out of school to welcome the caravan of Lamborghinis, and we're pulling in and the little kids are standing on the side of the road, boys and girls waving these Lamborghini flags, cheering us on. Every time someone would flip the throttle, the kids would go nuts and run into the street and cheer even louder. It was a really powerful moment. I didn't think it would affect me in the way that it did. It's something that will stay with me and I think everyone else that was on the trip for a long, long time. Driving from Bobbio to Forte dei Marmi was one of the most beautiful roads I've ever seen. That was another one of the many highlights, seeing this road that I'll have to figure out what it is so I can go back to it and drive it, even if it's in a Fiat rental car or something. Day 2, we left the resort beach town of Forte dei Marmi and headed for Pisa. A lot of people got to see a lot of Lamborghinis driving past the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Not a lot of people in Lamborghinis got to see the Leaning Tower of Pisa. Lamborghinis have low roofs, and I remember seeing on the itinerary that we were going to be going through Pisa, and I was like, oh, we'll probably see the Leaning Tower. So I was looking around, and sure enough, it was right by us, and then after we talked to some other people, they didn't even realize we had gone past it. But it was there, and it's still leaning. After we drove through Pisa, we were supposed to stop at an Air Force base, but we missed the one little sign that said which off-ramp we were supposed to take, and we plowed straight through. Driving into Rome was hectic. Rome is this beautiful mix of these 2,000-plus-year-old buildings intermixed with the conveniences that a modern city needs. Some things they could fix, like putting lines on the boulevards. There'd be like a 4-lane wide boulevard with no lines, so it's a free-for-all, which is a lot of fun, but intimidating in a $250,000 sports car. So we left the piazza overlooking the city. The sun was out, it was a beautiful day, and we left. It was a fair amount of freeway miles until we got closer to our lunch stop. These are big, powerful sports cars with not huge gas tanks. And when you drive fast, you go through gas a lot faster. So anytime you'd think, oh, we're just gonna stop for a bathroom break, you'd come across every service station along the entire route. You'd pull in and see 5 or 6 Lamborghinis just pulled over, filling up, or people stretching their legs. But I can't imagine what it'd be like just to be stopping at your normal spot to fill up your tank and see 2 Miuras, a Countach, and a Diablo just hanging out. As we continued on into what were basically farm access roads, nothing too heinous speed-wise because it was raining, and especially for some of the older cars like the Diablos, it's a lot of horsepower going to just the rear wheel. So it was a good time, and people were moving relatively quickly, but with a little more restraint. The rain was coming down, but it was still beautiful roads where every once in a while the route would take us through just a small, ancient Italian town, and people waving and cheering, people coming out just watching the cars parade through the town. I'm not sure if this trip is totally indicative of what driving in Italy is like because we were totally spoiled. Lamborghini hired a police brigade to chaperone the entire group. So as we're driving down the freeways, the police are going ahead on their motorcycles and shooing slower traffic out of the way. The same way when you're sitting on the freeway stuck behind a Prius and you just want to wave them off, the police were doing that for us, to everyone. So we were going absolutely heinous, terrifying speeds on public roads. I'm not sure what a passing zone looks like in Italy. I don't know where you can or where you cannot do it because everyone was passing everywhere. If there's an open space and oncoming traffic, you pass. As we continued through Tuscany on these just more stunning Italian roads with lush green trees tunneling over the road, we finally pulled into Bologna and parked the cars in Piazza Maggiore. So the next day we're in Bologna, all the cars are parked, and it was just the final opportunity for everyone to reflect on what an amazing trip it had been. Even though the piazza was blocked off to the general public, every inch of the barricades was surrounded by passers-by looking at all these cars parked in the town square. The last driving for us to do the entire trip was from Piazza Maggiore in Bologna to Sant'Agata, the factory where all the cars were made. It was the homecoming. All the cars were going home. As we arrived from Bologna to the factory in Sant'Agata, there were hundreds, maybe thousands of spectators and fans lining the streets. The whole trip was absolutely once in a lifetime. To see that many Lamborghinis together, it's just something that could never be replicated.
Was this one of the best experiences of your life?
This was one of the best experiences of anyone's life.